Thank you so much, Noah. Really appreciate your time, effort you've put into this, and the message in particular. This is, like you say, this is the frontier, and it ought to be the frontier for evangelism. We'll open it up to questions, starting with Hunter.
So a type of content that I see all the time, as you know, I'm in that age group that uses YouTube a lot, is these kind of situations where you'll see somebody out doing street preaching, right? Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, I can't help but to notice that the ones that tend to blow up, become super popular, are where they're in the most controversial setting that they can possibly be, rather than just at any point preaching. And so I guess my point of saying that is, how can you make sure that, because engagement and views is a chance to spread the gospel, but how can you make sure you're doing it with true intentions rather than just, I'm going to post what's going to get me views?
Good question. Hunter's asking question 2, by the way. Is this clickbait? Clickbait means something that grabs your attention that may be deceptive. You scroll through YouTube and you see these thumbnails where they've got all sorts of red arrows and circles and piles of cash or something. We're giving away $300,000 if you click this video. That's clickbait, and it's designed to trick you into clicking the video. We want to avoid that, obviously, because our intentions are completely pure and genuine. We're not here to make money. We are here to save souls. But I want you to know that making clickbait and making content that grabs people's attention is not the same thing. Jesus went to a man who was crippled and asked him, "Do you want to be well?" Now that's a question that grabs his attention. And he says, I would love to if I had someone to carry me and put me in the pool. Jesus was not being clickbaity, but he was asking compelling questions. And so I don't believe there's anything wrong with asking people compelling questions, questions that strike to the heart of what they're going through in life, and answer those questions genuinely from the Bible. And you know what's going to make the difference is our demeanor and our approach. If you walk into any situation ready to fight and to beat people over the head, they sense that. And they put up their guard. They're ready to fight too. But if we walk in with a genuine, loving concern for their soul, they sense that and they open to the gospel.
I just want to mention Greg Gay started a social media thing during COVID. Good News with Greg. It was totally intended to be just a way to communicate with the congregation of less than 30 people. It got out, and I can't begin to know how many countries in the world watch his videos, and all of the foreign work that you see him involved in has came directly from that, which that costs nothing.
Let me tell you why Brother Greg's Facebook group and his videos succeed. Because he understood that for many people, social media is how they build community. They get on there and they discover people they can interact with, and a safe place that they can ask these kind of Bible questions that are on their mind. And Greg started making videos which answered people's questions that were being asked in the group. And it wasn't anything fancy. He's just sitting in his garage in front of a bookcase with a camera. And look at the result he's gotten in Uganda. So imagine what even greater result we can get if we'll invest in this.
Just a quick comment, because I use YouTube a lot. YouTube has, most social media now has a translate function right in the comments. So you can have really in-depth discussions with people you would never be able to ever have communicated with in your whole life. And it can be a very powerful tool. So I just wanted to throw that out there as well. Like these other nationalities, you're able to hit view translation. You can see exactly what they wrote in whatever language, and then hit view translate, and bam, it goes right into something that kind of makes sense to you, and then you can type back and they can do the same thing. So it's just this incredible tool, like you say.
In fact, it's easier than ever these days to take a video that you make in one language and translate it into another language so people can benefit. In fact, we have some interest in China, and this is how a lot of Bible teaching is disseminated through China. It's through these social media platforms. They find ways that they can get around government censorship through sending videos, live video chats, Bible studies, and things of that nature.
Okay, sorry. I thought about it when you were talking, and I just have to ask, what do you think of apologetics in media form? So when people basically say, hey, we're gonna debate about this topic, and they record it and talk about it, because sometimes I have a feeling that it can be, how do I describe? It becomes too much of an argument and less of I'm going to learn from this video, if that makes sense. Yes. So,
of course, in everything we have to be careful about arrogance, and that's not exclusive to social media. That's a danger of anyone who looks at the Bible and looks at the gospel as a way to show people I'm smarter than you, I'm better than you, and just beat people over the head. And so apologetics content that defends the truth of the Bible is fantastic. What I don't like is when those people get an ego and it all goes to their head, and you can't hide it. It comes out in the way that they talk to people. And so, of course, I want to emphasize our goal here is not to make money off ad revenue. It shouldn't be for any of us to just be able to say we have a video with hundreds of thousands of views. Our goal is to use social media to make personal interactions that lead to Bible study and someone obeying the gospel. In fact, I neglected to say, with our Faith Uncovered YouTube channel, one of the things that came out of it were 9 Bible studies from people who saw the video, got in contact with Chris, and they had a study through Zoom or so forth.
It was actually 11, up to 11 now. I was going to wait till after the services, but Noah, you nailed that lesson, and I'm so appreciative of this presentation. So I'm going to throw a softball for you. I'm going to ask number 4.
What if commentators use profanity? We're talking about, if you're running an ad on Facebook, people have the ability to like it, to type a comment in response to it, or they can even share it to their own personal Facebook page. And by the way, that's a good thing. And the more that you can get engagement for free, the better, because it makes your ad even more visible to people in your community. But you will find that the way people talk in the world is sometimes they just use profanity. They haven't learned anything different. And they may even engage with an ad from a church using profanity, either because they're mad about something or that's just how they express excitement about things. So the question is, what are we going to do about it? Well, I think we would respond to this in the same way that we would if they were talking to us face to face. Understand that there will be a time, if they come to Christ and obey the gospel, there'll be a time to teach them all things Jesus commanded, which means stop using profanity. But I would not let that distract from the greater task at hand, which is this person needs to obey the gospel. Let's talk about that. And I will say there's a temptation to delete these kind of comments. You want to avoid deleting comments because it hurts the visibility of your video. But even more than that, look at this as a chance to respond in a calm manner and in a kind manner so that people see what you're about and how you talk to people. Hope that answers your question.
So, I don't know if this is a softball question, and this is off the top of your head. You said that the startup cost for some of these things, there's a little bit of investment in audio, camera, things like that, but then after that, it's, outside of the advertising cost, it's very minimal. Could you, for audience sake, let people know what some of those startup costs are? Like, what kind of commitment are you making money-wise to going this route? And maybe even particular, as opposed to maybe a TV program or a radio program or a mail-out, like we've done before. And again, those are, I know numbers going to be off the top of your head, but I know you're familiar with them.
Well, yeah, I don't have specific numbers for how much you might pay for a TV program or a mail-out program versus this. I can give you the numbers for this, which is in Arlington, Texas, which is extremely population dense, we paid about $10 per person running our Facebook ad. Now, in Abilene, Texas, where Chris Jones is working, less population dense, more comparable to Columbia, and we paid $15 a person to make contact. In even more rural areas, it was between $16 and $18. So population density does drive costs down, more people in one area to see the video. But think about that. I mean, if you had the ability to take a $20 bill and hand it to somebody on the street and have the chance to talk about the gospel, that's worth it to me. Sometimes it's even lower than that. So when we talk about running these Facebook ads, the investment's very low. And what's beautiful about these Facebook ads is you're not locked into any sort of contract. You tell them, we want to spend this amount of money on an ad and run it for this amount of time. And what's even more interesting is you can stop it if it's not working. You'll have to come see my video later that I made and tried in Green Oaks. It was a great video, but it was a terrible ad, and it was a complete flop. And after $50, it became apparent it wasn't going to do anything, and I stopped it, and I got the rest of the $50 that I was going to spend on it back. So the overhead for a Facebook ad is very low, and these Facebook ads you can shoot with your phone. A lot of people have a camera that's good enough just to shoot with your phone. You might want a tripod, but that's cheap. You'll want a good microphone probably. If you have bad audio, that's a turnoff for most people. But we're talking about very low cost for these Facebook ads here. Now, if you're looking at YouTube, you're probably going to want to spend more money. And I don't recommend just everybody do this, honestly. This is a significant investment of your time to make YouTube videos. You're looking at, something comparable to producing the TV program, Let the Bible Speak. But camera equipment is readily available these days, as is audio equipment. And once you've paid for that equipment, if you're posting to YouTube, you're not paying any sort of cost like you are to air it on a TV program. And so what we found, just in a nutshell, is the cost to do things on social media is significantly lower and produces a much higher return than traditional forms of media. And I'll tell you this, any congregation can do a Facebook ad and get good results from it.
I'm just asking this because I know this may be a concern for some people. When you talk about clickbait, is there an option, like let's say on YouTube, where you could choose to forego the monetization of your account? Whereas, so if someone were to accuse you of clickbait, you could say, well, I can't even make money off this account anyway. So no, I'm not trying to do that. So that's just something.
You just switch ad revenue off, and you're not making any money anymore.
Perfect.
So a comment and a question. First of all, good job. Good job. But we live in an age where I believe Christianity is making a comeback. A few decades ago, atheism is on the rise. People are stopping going to church. But in our generation, particularly with young men, it's because of the internet that Christianity is making a comeback. I have a friend who converted to the Orthodox Church, which, if you're not very familiar with that, it's very close to Catholicism, minus a pope. But he was converted because of memes about the Orthodox Church. And I visited that church, and there are many young men that went through a similar experience. So I just say that to emphasize the role that the internet plays in these things. Yeah. But it's mostly Catholics that are dominating the internet Christian sphere, the Christosphere, if you want to call it that. What I'm trying to say is that the Church of Christ really doesn't have a good foothold in that area. The two most popular of these Christian influencer types, at least on YouTube, is Trent Horn, who's a Catholic, and Redeemed Zoomer, who's a Presbyterian. And both of them have referenced the Church of Christ. But they reference them as this cuckoo group that they don't even respect. Like, they might refer to some other denominations as, oh, we disagree, but I have a respect for them and I can understand some of their ideas. But there's a lot of ignorance about the Church of Christ, and they're just like, oh yeah, they're that weirdo group, and they may misrepresent us in statements. So that was my comment. Is I just want to say that I think it'd be good for us to get a foothold, and I think it's important. My question, anyway, that was a long comment, is you titled your lesson "A Digital Pulpit." The digital pulpit. The internet is a public platform to teach. And I had a question, I heard a question asked that I didn't know quite how to answer, and it's, how should women interact with social media? Would you say it's okay for a woman to post on her YouTube account maybe a short sharing a biblical insight that she thought was profound?
Well, to put things in a nutshell, as far as I can tell, a YouTube video or a social media post is not a church service. As I understand it, a woman may not speak or teach in church. Now, her speaking or her teaching in other realms of public spheres, there may be more to talk about there. I think that's all I'll say at the moment.
I just want to say good job. Really appreciate it. I've dabbled a little bit. Austin dabbled a little bit. So we're on the same page. All we need is a young person to become that, that YouTube sensation. And so we need somebody to step up, and I'm willing to help. I'm sure Austin willing to help locally with somebody who wants to do that. And I had a question too, and I forgot what it was. I'm old. Oh, humor. Have you used humor? That's what I wanted to ask you. Have you used humor? Because I was thinking about, the hook, is what you call it, and all. Currently, we have this old nasty building, and we could say, do you want to worship in a gorgeous building, in a great part of town, and blah blah blah. Well, if that's the case, you're not for a, you don't want to. But if you want a group of friendly, happy Christians who serve God, then come meet with us. But have you tried humor?
My response to your specific idea is, who's your audience? As far as humor, one time Jesus asked the Pharisees, I've shown you many wonderful works from the Father. For which of these are you stoning me? That's hilarious. That was a joke. And so Jesus did use humor at times. And I think it can be an effective way of hooking people, but obviously there'd be a balance between being respectful for the things of God and the joke. So, can I say something about trolls?
Yeah.
here, let me ask.
Okay.
Can you say something about number 3?
I bring that up because Cole kind of touched on that. There will be people who maybe engage with content and they're critical of the church. What do we do? I want you to think about this. If you're scrolling through Facebook or whatever it may be, and there's an ad that you care nothing about, what do? You just scroll right past it. If someone is taking the time to comment on an ad, even if it's a negative comment, seems kind of sarcastic, they care enough to stop and say something, that means it's worth responding to. And I can tell you a story about that produced some fruit from our own ads, but.
Thank you. I just had one quick question though. So about podcasts though, as also a form of social media, how could you fit a hook into those? And how do you actually engage with people with those as well?
Sure. Well, a podcast is long form media, right? It's two people sitting, having a conversation, and sometimes there's video, but it's primarily audio. That's the emphasis, is to listen to a podcast. Usually people are listening while they're doing something else, right? Kind of like a radio program. And so, putting a hook into a podcast, perhaps it has to do with the topic. Is a topic that is relevant, people want to know about, and have serious questions about. And you bring somebody in who is knowledgeable on that topic and who can answer those questions. But I'll say there's even another way you can make that kind of content engaging, is you take clips from the podcast, find some good moments, powerful moments, and you clip them and make a short video, and then you promote that. And what happens is people listen to these short clips and they think, I want to go hear the whole thing. And they go listen to the whole podcast.
Thanks. So I'll ask 2 in a row, I suppose. My question is about how we would utilize our personal social media accounts. So I think what you've described here largely focuses on like a church Facebook page or a church page in that kind of realm. But like you said, we're all on, not all, some of us, many of us are on social media. And so we have spheres of influence, we have many, many friends. And so someone may say, well, I want to use my personal thing to promote a message. Or they may say, how can I use my platform? Maybe I don't post a lot, but how can I use my platform to get the word of God out? What would be your response to some of these things?
If people look at your social media accounts and they can't tell you're a Christian, you might have a problem. Especially if they look at it and they get the opposite impression. Social media is just a reflection of us personally. That's what it's become. Sometimes to a detriment, because people put too much of their personal life out there on social media. They're too invested in it. But look at social media as an opportunity to make references to your faith and to your congregation, just as you would in normal conversation, other areas of life. And I'll tell you what, one of the simplest things that you can do is go like and go share posts from the congregation. It takes one click. It's that easy. And you have already helped to make this content more visible to whoever is following you on social media.
Your question, compare the Facebook ad versus a Facebook post and where it's going to go.
Okay? I think they serve different purposes. The goal of a Facebook ad is to catch the attention of someone who maybe does not follow your page, but they are seeing this because you've paid some money so that everyone within 10 miles of the church can see this ad. Your goal is to hook that person, grab their interest, and then begin to build a connection. As far as a Facebook post, such as text or pictures or various things, that is more for sustaining the connection you've already made. And a great example of this is Brother Melvin Blaylock with the Cleburne congregation writes basically an article each week, just a short, it's just a text post. He posts it on Facebook, and he has several thousand people who read that, who like it, and who share it. And they're people who have liked the page, or I imagine he is met in the community and invited to like the page. And he is consistent in posting every single week. And so people look to it, you know, like they might get a newspaper or something like that.
But I'm meaning, if you posted that same 10-second video to your account as opposed to an ad.
Mm-hmm. Well, if it was just a video and it wasn't paid to be boosted as an ad within 10 miles of the church, the only people who see it will be people who follow you on Facebook. Those are your friends. And then if your friends end up sharing that, their friends will be able to see it. And so there's still an opportunity for growth there. Just understand, it's people who have already made friends with you and become your friend on Facebook.
Noah, do you have any closing comments you'd like to make?
I do. I would like to say simply, we missed the internet when it first came out. We missed MySpace. For the most part, we missed YouTube when it first came out. YouTube's almost 20 years old at this point. The train is leaving the station. And if we hop on, we just might have a chance of catching it.